Now, some of you may be thinking, wow, she looks cute and dressed for the weather, but I assure you, it's just a thyroid condition. Hello, piano fam. My name is Miss Lindsay. I'm a Piano with Jonny student and also a private piano teacher for those who don't know any better. Now, you know what time it is if you've seen any of my previous episodes or videos, and it's time for me to let you in on my piano shame of what I'm learning next. If you watched my part 1 of I Don't Got Rhythm, then you will know that I've been struggling with the bass fundamental concept that every musician needs to be successful. This is rhythm. Now, before we get started, I actually want to introduce you to a template that I use for all of my learning students and also to organize my own brain when breaking apart what it is that I will be doing next to further the self-learning process. The mind-heart-body matrix is a linear diagram organizing our 3 learning centers with the supporting provisions of time and structure. This diagram acknowledges that before any information can be absorbed, a clarifying time expectation and commitment must be set for learning. Next, the diagram identifies the strengths and weaknesses of each learning modality. Visual processing, for example, excels in design, coherency, and organization, but deters in chaos and inaccuracy. Auditory processing excels in truth, bonding, and communication, but deters in denial and alienation. Kinesthetic processing excels in building and demonstrations, but deters in confinement and captivity. Our last provision dictates that the structure has to include space for all 3 learning capabilities and is absolutely necessary to find balance. I find that the current institutionalized school systems are very limited when it comes to kinesthetic processing, especially. Right now, and with my students, I've been putting a heavy emphasis and focus on organizing my 3 learning centers. These 3 learning centers I have identified as the ways in which we take in information. Kinesthetic learning, auditory learning, and visual learning are not new concepts. Most people understand them, and most people tend to gravitate or identify with one of the 3 learning centers. Except it's my philosophy that everyone has all 3 and that certain people are predisposed. Me personally, I find that I will learn kinesthetically best, and then auditorily second, and then my visual learning process is a complete dumpster fire. Keeping these 3 modalities in mind, I'm going to talk about the 3 learning centers and how they retain information when it pertains to rhythm in particular. So rhythm from a kinesthetic motion, most people are familiar with this as well, you have muscle memory. And muscle memory, without looking up the Google definition because I'm too lazy for that right now, is the concept that your body actually has memory within its cells and muscles and can remember the motion while your brain is off thinking about other things, like binge watching the entire season of Cobra Kai in one day, or reorganizing all your hair oils into attractive, presentable, chalk-labeled bottles, or laying on the floor in a very positive cry meditation that you called your yoga session one day. Muscle memory is the act of our fingers remembering what it is that they were doing. Now, in our auditory learning center, or what I categorize within our heart space, okay, is going to be the heartbeat or the feeling or the connection that you have to your music or to your rhythm. Most people on stage, I will find, completely get away with any type of musical craft as long as they can feel the beat. Whether they can count it out loud, okay, or whether they can actually play it 100%, as long as they're feeling it, even if they mess up, they can come back in on rhythm because they can feel that heartbeat and they can recover from mistakes quite quickly, right? Lastly, the mind, which is the one that I struggle with the most, is where we do our active counting. This means assigning numbers to each and every breakdown of a count. And this is where I find most people who are rhythmically suffering also are suffering in this state as well. Either the pulse, where they cannot feel it, or the counting space, where they can't actually assign the numerical value. So in order to effectively learn rhythm all the way through, what I did was broke down a song that I knew by muscle memory, but definitely had no pulse in. I didn't know where the 1 beat was. And because I didn't know where the 1 beat was, it meant that I couldn't really count it out loud. All I had was a very messy muscle memory that could not be used in an interactive situation that actually required a pulse. So today, the example I'm going to be using to cure my bad muscle memory habits and learn syncopation from the ground up in all 3 appropriate learning centers is going to be none other than Linus and Lucy by Vince Guaraldi. This song, I've learned like 3 different versions of it, and each version I learned completely inaccurately. I got away with it though because I was a cute little child, and everybody loves when children play music and are very willing to excuse your mistakes. Later on in life though, when you hit 30 and people all of a sudden have some sort of adult expectation of your character, what you'll realize is that people can't feel the rhythm if you can't feel it. And also people can't count precisely the rhythm if you can't count it. And the more accuracy that you develop in your playing, the more it's going to resonate through your audience. And ideally, that's what we want to do as a performer, is cause a very particularly positive experience. So with that said, here is the first run of what I remember of Linus and Lucy without appropriate pulse or without appropriate counts, identifying that number 1 beat in the mind, right? And I want you to see if you can feel the pulse or you can find the 1 count, because I sure can't. When I look at these, this is where my piano shame comes from, okay? Playing for such a long time and not having accuracy is my deepest seated shame. Everyone thinks that they should be better, and so do I. Let's just go on to phase 2. So on this one, unlearning a muscle memory is very difficult because your hands are going to want to know the motion of the song. And if you've played this song over the course of, 10 years, incorrectly without appropriate feedback, it becomes a privileged problem of being able to sort of play a song, kind of play a song, have a nice party trick in your back pocket, but realize that it would never actually catch fire on stage. So I actually, first and foremost, went to my music, broke down the counts, and actually just practiced counting out loud. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then playing with my hands very slowly. Go slow, stop speeding it up, stop throwing unnecessary expectations on yourself, or if you do, carry them like a champion, and just go at the pace that you have to go. During this exercise, I lost my breath several times and also made very weird faces. Enjoy. Here is me learning how to count. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So once you learn how to count, then you can go ahead and find your 1 beat, and that means creating your pulse, okay? Your heartbeat should contract and expand on whatever specified beat you want it to. And as I found my heartbeat and was able to keep up with the counting momentum, here's what it sounded like after all that work. Piano is not an enjoyable sport. It is meant to be tumultuous and horrid to the inside of your soul, the more serious that you develop your skill set. So at the end of the day, how did we do? I mean, I got the counts. I still don't know if it would catch fire on stage. The point of this video is to show you that as frustrating as it is, don't take shortcuts. That's all I have for you. Bye!